Chapter 16:27. When Si Tuyen heard this answer, he was also stunned. Bailey Hongzhuang was first place in this assessment competition? This result was really unexpected. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength at that time, she was actually able to obtain first place after 2 years. This was really surprising. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's faces also revealed astonishment. Even though they had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could obtain good results in the assessment competition, they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang could obtain such good result. This really exceeded their expectations by too much. The first place of the assessment competition was always a talent that was valued by others. How many cultivators participated in the assessment competition? It was definitely not easy to stand out among so many cultivators. Usually, the first place of the assessment competition was a cultivator from a large empire. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to achieve such a result. It was a bit too amazing. After hearing this news, Han Hongyi's originally pale face instantly became extremely ugly. He simply couldn't believe that Shi Ling had died in the small world and Bailey Hongzhuang actually became first place in the assessment competition. This was simply something that couldn't possibly happen. This is impossible. Han Hongyi immediately said, with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, how could she obtain first place? There must be a problem in this. Following Han Hongyi's words, Si Tuyen and the rest all frowned. They didn't think that Han Hongyi would actually lose his composure like this. First Elder, the first place of this assessment competition was obtained by the cultivators with their own strength. How could there be a problem? Qin Ai's voice was slightly heavy. The assessment competition had always been fair and just. How could there be a problem? Han Hongyi couldn't care about this at this moment and said, Bailey Hongzhuang must have used some method. First Elder, you have no evidence. You're slandering people by saying this. Si Tuyen couldn't help but speak up. Even if Han Hongyi's granddaughter had died, he wouldn't allow Han Hongyi to insult his granddaughter like this. From the first time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. He didn't know the reason before, but now he finally understood. This was the kinship of blood. Even though they had never met or interacted with each other before, there was an indescribable sense of familiarity when they met. The gazes of the others changed a little when they looked at Han Hongyi. In their opinion, Han Hongyi was slandering them. Even if this result was unacceptable to him, it was beneath him to say such baseless words. Hearing Si Tuyen's warning, Han Hongyi came back to his senses and quickly said, Bailey Hongzhuang probably asked her teammates to give all their points to her. That's why she could get such a result. Everyone's expression changed slightly when they heard this. If Bailey Hongzhuang really did that, it was not impossible. In fact, there were quite a number of cultivators who used such methods during the assessment. Many people felt that it was impossible for them to get on the list with their points. For the sake of the dynasty, they would give all their points to the same cultivator. This way, the possibility of getting on the list would be much higher. However, everyone couldn't help but think of Xia Jiqing and the others. The cultivation of Xia Jiqing and the others was not high. Even if they went to the assessment competition, their points would not be much. Chapter 16:28. What the disciples could think of, the elders could naturally think of as well. In their opinion, the first elder was really twisting words and forcing logic. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Shiling had conflicts, Han Hongyi, as an elder, should not say such a thing. Not only did he lose his demeanor, but he was also making a joke of himself. Han Hongyi did not care about other people's thoughts at the moment and was completely stubborn. In any case, he could not believe that this was the true strength of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, He Ming's next words made Han Hongyi's face become even uglier. The sect master has already recruited Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu back to the sect. As soon as these words came out, everyone could not help but be stunned for a moment. In their view, Bailey Hongzhuang being able to get such a result was already very surprising. The strength of Xia Jiqing and the others was absolutely impossible to climb into the top 100. As a result, could it be that the young sect master had recruited them back? No wonder there were 12 cultivators. Maybe this was the result of the young sect master's favoritism. Thinking of this, everyone's mood was a little bad. In their eyes, the young sect master, who had always been excellent and fair, should not do such a thing. However, He Ming's next sentence had already explained the reason extremely well, allowing everyone to understand one after another. Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu are all cultivators in the top 30 of the top 100. Among them, Gong Shaoqing is 27th, Dongfang Yu is 28th, Bai Junyu is 29th, and Xia Jiqing is 30th. It is because of this that the young sect master recruited them back to the sect, because they originally represented the sect to participate in the assessment. He Ming's eyes were cold. The great elder was already a stumbling block, and now he even slandered the young lady. It was really disgusting. Listening to He Ming's explanation, the disciples of Tiangang's sect were dumbfounded again. How is this possible? They are all in the top 30 of the top 100? Not only that, their rankings are very close. This is unbelievable. So, the great elder's previous guess is not valid at all. If Bailey Hongzhuang really took away the points of Xia Jiqing and the others, how could Xia Jiqing and the others have such results? This time, the performance of the Tsang Lan College's cultivators is really amazing. What kind of fortuitous encounter did they have during the assessment? The crowd of disciples felt that it was inconceivable. Logically speaking, this was something that should be impossible. Among the cultivators present, there were some who had participated in the assessment competition before. They knew very well how difficult it was to climb to the top 100. Generally speaking, cultivators who could appear on the top 100 were almost all cultivators from large empires. Occasionally, there would be a few cultivators from medium empires who rushed up, and they were considered dark horses. However, Xia Jiqing and the others were just from a small or medium-sized dynasty. The Kanglan College was only famous in this level of dynasty. But to a large empire, such an academy had no influence at all. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were able to achieve such amazing result. This was simply too unbelievable. If possible, they really wanted to suspect if He Ming was wrong. However, they also knew that the possibility of them being wrong was close to zero. Chapter 1629. Their results are actually so good? Qin Ai was a little stunned. Such results were really unexpected. Bailey Hongzhuang's results had already given them a huge surprise. They did not expect the results of Xia Jiqing and the others to be so pleasantly surprised. In this way, not only did Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was excellent, but the performance of Xia Jiqing and the others was also very outstanding. It seemed that in this assessment competition, their Tiangang sect really showed their face. He Ming nodded, yes. The performance of these little guys this time is really amazing. Gu Jingqing chuckled. This result was much better than they had imagined. No one thought that these little guys would be so promising. It seemed that they had been worried for nothing. There was also a smile in Si Tuyan's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang and her friend's results were very good this time. What about Wu Yuexin and the others? Han Hongyi asked. Wu Yuexin's performance at the time was only second to Bailey Hongzhuang. He believed that this result should not be bad. Except for the people I just mentioned, Wu Yuexin and the others did not come back. He Ming said. Han Hongyi could not help but take 2 steps back. His face became extremely ugly. Completely annihilated. Completely annihilated. Han Hongyi could not believe it at all. The strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was obviously not as strong as Shi Ling. This should be a sure-win situation. How could they lose? Han Hongyi could not understand. How could they lose in such a sure-win situation? He could not help but have an idea in his mind. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others killed them? When this thought surfaced, even Han Hongyi himself found it ridiculous. How could such a thing happen? If Shi Ling died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, didn't that mean that Shi Ling's strength was not even as good as a girl from a remote village? While Han Hongyi kept thinking, Si Tuyen also understood in his heart. At the beginning, Han Hongyi bought Wu Yuexin and the others to help Han Shiling deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. Now Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back safely, but Han Shiling and the others did not come back. The most direct and simple guess was that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others killed Han Shiling and the others. At the beginning, he did not care about this kind of thing. In his opinion, Han Hongyi should not do such a thing. After all, the matters between the younger generation should be solved by the younger generation themselves. The competition between them should be completed by themselves. As elders, they would not intervene in this kind of thing. However, he didn't expect that Han Hongyi would actually make a move. Not only did he make a move, but he also went overboard. It was truly beyond his expectations. However, the result was completely different from what Han Hongyi had expected. He had sent his granddaughter underground, but none of Wu Yuexin and the others had returned. All of this was retribution. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others must have used a conspiracy to kill Shi Ling and the others. Han Hongyi's face was full of anger. He only had Shi Ling left in the world. He brought Shi Ling up from a young age. From the crying child to the beautiful woman who grew up now, he had always been full of hope for Shi Ling and was proud of it. As long as Shi Ling became the wife of the young master of Tiangang sect, then she would really embark on a broad road in the future. However, now Shi Ling was dead. All his hopes were destroyed. Chapter 1630. Han Hongyi couldn't accept all this at all. Originally, Han Shiling should have smoothly become the young sect mistress of Tiangang sect, and as the great elder of Tiangang sect, his position would be more stable. All these should be completed smoothly, but now it was completely destroyed. He couldn't believe it at all. Hate. A strong hatred suddenly emerged in Han Hongyi's heart. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, how could he have fallen to such a state? All of this was ruined because of Bailey Hongzhuang. When he thought of this, Han Hongyi hated that he couldn't kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Hongyi's murderous intent didn't escape the eyes of Si Tuyen and the others. It seemed that Han Hongyi also believed that Han Shiling's death was related to Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter who killed Han Shiling, it was a matter of the assessment competition. As everyone knew, everything that happened in the assessment competition was within the permitted scope. In fact, everyone understood that the reason why Han Hongyi let Han Shiling participate in the assessment competition was to let them compete. When the two fought, there would be people who were happy and people who were worried. Han Hongyi should have been mentally prepared. Si Tuyen's eyes changed a little. It seemed that he had to be wary of Han Hongyi. His granddaughter, no one was allowed to have any thoughts about her. Great Elder, once you enter the assessment competition, life and death are up to fate. Out of the assessment competition, everything is no longer calculative. You should be clearer than anyone about this point. Si Tuyen said slowly. Hearing Si Tuyen's words, Han Hongyi raised his head in shock and astonishment. He couldn't believe that the sect master would say such words to him. These words were clearly a warning. The sect master was warning him not to lay a hand on Bailey Hongzhuang. This meant that the sect master was standing on Bailey Hongzhuang's side? The disciples present were stunned for a moment after hearing the sect master's words. The sect master's attitude was to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. After a short moment of astonishment, Han Hongyi also understood. Now that Shi Ling was dead, no one would compete with Bailey Hongzhuang. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang had already proven her strength with the results of the assessment. In this way, she and young sect master could be said to be together in the right and proper way, without such a huge obstacle. adding on to the fact that young sect master liked her. Her position as young sect master's madam was practically secured. Everyone knew that the dead had no value. Even if Shi Ling's reputation in Tiangang sect was so good, now that she had fallen, everything was meaningless. However, he was unwilling to give up. He was not willing to let his granddaughter fall like this. He was not willing to let Bailey Hongzhuang sit in the position that originally belonged to Shi Ling. He would definitely avenge Shi Ling. Han Hongyi had already made up his mind, but he didn't show it on his face. This was because the sect master and the others were already paying attention to him. If he made it too obvious, everyone would definitely be on guard against him. Therefore, he needed to plan everything at length. Sect master, I'm a little uncomfortable. I'll take my leave first. Han Hongyi said. Everything that happened today was too complicated. His heart was too chaotic. He had to go back and think about it carefully. Hearing this, Si Tuyen waved his hand and motioned for Han Hongyi to leave first. After Han Hongyi left, Si Tuyen glanced at Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing. The three people's expressions were somewhat complicated. Chapter 1631. Qin Ai and the others had been with Han Hongyi for many years. Therefore, they also had some understanding of Han Hongyi's character. Han Shiling had always been the person Han Hongyi cared about the most. Now that Han Shiling was dead, Han Hongyi would never let it go easily. It seemed that there would still be some troubles that needed to be solved later. Si Tuyen did not say much about this matter. Instead, he looked at the others and said, "Everyone go back. Farewell, sect master." Everyone bowed. Si Tuyen slowly walked in the direction of the palace and disappeared from everyone's sight. Qin Ai and the other elders looked at each other and did not stay for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not come back for the time being. They did not need to be too worried. After the sect master and the elders left, the disciples of Tiangang sect were in an uproar. I bet that Han Shiling died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? At the beginning, they went as a team. Han Shiling and the others are all dead, but Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are all safe and sound? I think so too. I really didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would be so powerful. Do you think that they have hidden their strength before, just waiting for Han Shiling to participate in the assessment competition to get rid of him? Han Shiling is usually so arrogant. Compared to him, I think Bailey Hongzhuang is better. Everyone had different thoughts. The only thing they had in common was that they knew that the time for Han Shiling had passed. The next most influential woman in Tiangang sect was Bailey Hongzhuang. Defeating Han Shiling, becoming the first in the assessment competition, and having the care of the young sect master, Bailey Hongzhuang's transformation from a sparrow to a phoenix was already set in stone. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked on a narrow path. They did not know what kind of shock their matter had caused in Tiangang sect. In fact, Xia Jiqing and the others also wanted to know what kind of expression the great elder would have when he learned that Han Shiling was dead. That old fox actually wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop during the assessment competition. Fortunately, they had made great progress. Coupled with Di Baichen's protection, they had been able to walk safely until now. Come to think of it, the first elder's feeling of trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it must have made him collapse. For this matter, Xia Jiqing and the others only thought about it in their hearts and did not say it out loud. After all, Han Shiling was Di Baichen's junior sister. They had already made up their minds not to tell anyone about this matter. Even if everyone guessed that Han Shiling had died in their hands, there was no evidence, so nothing could be confirmed. At that time, no matter how much the first elder hated them, it would still be useless. Along with the increase in their strength, the speed of their journey had also increased by quite a bit. The next day, Yuan Zhixin and Yuan Xiaoman planned to say goodbye to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "Boss, young sect master, we can find a flying beast as soon as possible and return to the Snow Origin Dynasty," so we will take our leave here. Yuan Jixin's face was full of smiles as he said to Bailey Hongzhuang and Yuan Xiaoman. Now he only hoped to return to his family as soon as possible. When he thought of the scene of his family welcoming him back, he could not help but feel excited. Chapter 1632. You guys go, be careful on the road, see you in 3 months. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and beautiful face rippled with a light smile like a breeze. She waved her hand at Yuan Jixin and Yuan Jixin. Remember to say hello to brother Yuan and Li Qing for me. Di Beichen also nodded. Now he already knew the identity of Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Jixin. He didn't expect that Hong Zhuang would meet the cultivators of the Yuan family in the assessment competition. It was really fate. Boss, don't worry, we will. Yuan Xiaoman's face was full of smiles. If Li Qing knew that she and the boss had become teammates and would cultivate together in Tiangang sect in the future, Li Qing would be excited to death. Xia Jiqing and the others also waved at Yuan Xiaoman. Their faces were full of smiles. In the future they would cultivate together in Tiangang sect. After Yuan Xiaoman left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been rushing, only hoping to return to Kanglin College as soon as possible. After 10 days of rushing, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at Kanglin College. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in Kanglin City, there was a burst of exclamation in Kanglin City. Oh my God, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are back. It's already been 2 years. I heard that they went to participate in the assessment competition. Are they back safe and sound now? My Dongfang Sr. is still so handsome. I haven't seen him for 2 years. His handsomeness hasn't decreased. Gong Shaoqing is still cold and chic. I feel that life is hopeless when they are not here. The eyes of the students of Kanglin College were tightly twisted on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. 2 years ago, the cultivators of the special enrollment class had always been their idols. However, since the beginning of the assessment competition, almost all the cultivators of the special enrollment class had left. There were only 3 people left: Lu Qinyue, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan. The number of cultivators in the special enrollment class suddenly decreased so much. Everyone was naturally very concerned. Many people guessed that they had gone to participate in the assessment competition. Now, 2 years had passed, and they had all returned. At this moment, everyone was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had gone to participate in the assessment competition. Who are these people? Why is everyone so excited? When the students of Kanglin School saw the craziness of the other students, they couldn't help but have a strange look on their faces. Who was this person? Why was it able to make everyone so crazy? You don't know about this, but they are the cultivators from the special enrollment class 2 years ago. They are Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, Bai Junyu, and Xia Jiqing. As soon as he said this, the students who were originally confused became excited. Oh my God! Is that woman in white Bailey Hongzhuang? I came to the Azure Water School to cultivate because I knew about her performance in the inter-school tournament. I thought that I would never see them again. I didn't expect that I would have the chance to see them today. This is really a pleasant surprise. The cultivators from the special enrollment class are back. For a time, the students of Kanglin College went crazy. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw the excited appearance of the students of Kanglin College, their faces couldn't help but show a smile. Chapter 1633. We're finally back again. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with an excited smile. The scenes that happened 2 years ago at Songlan College were still deeply imprinted in her mind. Now that they were back again, she felt an unspeakable joy and nostalgia. Boss, this is where we met. Xia Jiqing pointed to the restaurant and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Tong Xingyi had not taken the initiative to find trouble with Boss, she was afraid that she would not have had the opportunity to become friends with Boss, and would not have reached this point. Speaking of which, Xia Jiqing was somewhat grateful to Tong Xingyi. Without Tong Xingyi, how could she achieve what she had now? Looking in the direction that Xia Zhiqing was pointing at, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose a little as she said, "Yes, this is where we met." Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu looked at each other, their faces showing a big smile. "It seems that we are going to Elegant Cloud Residence to drink tonight. I haven't been back for so long, I really miss the taste of Elegant Cloud Residence." Dongfang Yu laughed. "Me too." Xia Zhiqing agreed. "I want to eat too, I want to eat too." When the three beasts heard about food, they immediately became excited. In the past 2 years, they had been in a state of mental tension during the assessment. How could they have time to care about food? Therefore, they had been eating bland and tasteless dry food, which was really not delicious. If they had been living in the small world, they would really feel that life was boring. Now that they were finally out of the small world, they had been in a hurry before and had not had a good meal. Now that they had arrived at Songlan City, they could finally eat delicious food. Looking at the excited appearance of the three beasts, everyone could not help but laugh. Speaking of which, the three beasts were really funny. No matter when, as long as there was food, they would be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang patted the heads of the three beasts and said, "Don't worry, you can eat as much as you want tonight." She knew that these three gluttonous guys had been holding back for a long time. Now that they were out of the small world, what was the harm in letting them have a good meal? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasts looked at each other and the smiles on their faces gradually widened. "Long live Master! Master, I love you! Master, you're the best!" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. These three little fellows were getting better and better at bootlicking. Xia Zhiqing and the others looked at the appearance of the three beasts and felt that it was really interesting. Xiao Feng and Xiao, who were still very young and did not have the naughty character of the three beasts. They looked very docile and cute. Looks like the three of them haven't been eating well during this period of time. Blackwood looked at the three beasts. Thinking back to when they were in the blood-ground abyss, the three beasts ate quite a lot every day. Seeing He Mu's appearance, the three beasties immediately jumped down from Bailey Hongzhuang's body and onto He Mu. Blackwood. Xiao He squinted her eyes and rubbed against He Mu. After being apart for so long, she really missed He Mu. Xiao Bai and Bai Shi lay on He Mu's body, their faces filled with bliss. Thinking back to the time when she was with Darkwood, they really had endless delicious food and lived happily every day. Now that they saw Blackwood again, they felt especially close to him. Chapter 1634. Xia Zhiqing and the others saw that the three beasts were so enthusiastic about He Mu, and their faces showed surprise. It seems that the three beasts like He Mu very much. Xia Zhiqing's eyes flashed with surprise. She had been with the three beasts for a long time, and their relationship was very good, but obviously not to the extent of He Mu. The eyes of Gong Shaoqing and the others also fell on He Mu. He Mu rarely appeared, and so far they had only seen He Mu a few times. When did the three beasts start to be so familiar with He Mu? Looking at the puzzled look of everyone, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and explained, "When I went to experience before, it was He Mu who took care of their food. Because He Mu gave them too much delicious food, they were particularly intimate when they saw He Mu. When participating in the assessment, she often heard the three little guys mention He Mu. Now that they finally saw him, it was normal for them to be excited." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Xia Zhiqing and the others recovered, and their faces showed a smile of understanding. "So that's how it is." Bai Junyu chuckled. "These three foodies, as long as there is food, everything is okay." Xia Zhiqing couldn't help but laugh. In terms of delicious food, she was afraid that no contract beast could compare to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Who made her contract beasts love to eat so much? Under the cheers of the cultivators, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked into the college. Looking at the extremely familiar Azure Water School, every blade of grass and every tree here gave them a feeling of nostalgia. The seniors of the special enrollment class are back. Our college will be lively in the future. Go and inform the principal and the mentors." But all the students who knew Gong Xiaoqing and the others couldn't help but show excitement on their faces at this moment. It was really exciting to see such a famous person again. The news swept through the entire Canglan city like the wind, and everyone was talking about it. After all, everyone originally guessed that Gong Xiaoqing and the others had gone to participate in the assessment. Now that they were back, it meant that they had safely walked out of the assessment. Presumably, their strength had also improved a lot. They had only heard of the assessment, but almost no one could participate. Now that they could see the cultivators who participated in the assessment, the excitement in their hearts could be imagined. Special Enrollment Dormitory. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng were practicing in the room when they suddenly heard a noise outside. Both of them couldn't help but have a look of doubt in their eyes. Canglan College rarely had such a commotion. Could it be that something had happened? Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng opened the door almost at the same time. The two of them looked at each other, their eyes flashing with confusion. "What's going on?" Zhang Yunfeng frowned slightly. Such a huge commotion was a little too frightening. Cui Haoyan shook his head, his face full of thoughts. With such a big commotion, something big must have happened. "Let's go out and take a look." Zhang Yunfeng nodded. "Okay." It wasn't just Cui Haoyan and Li Tianlan. The students who joined the special admissions class later also ran out after sensing the commotion. They had never encountered such a thing before, so they couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Chapter 1635. Senior Cui, what's going on? The new students of the special enrollment class could not help but ask after seeing Cui Haoyan appear. "Yeah, what's going on?" All the students looked at Cui Haoyan in confusion. In the entire special enrollment class, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had stayed in Canglan College the longest and were also the strongest. Usually, no matter what happened, it was Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng who informed them. Therefore, they were used to asking Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng for everything. Hearing everyone's questions, Cui Haoyan shook his head. "I don't know what happened. Let's go out and see." Seeing that Cui Haoyan was not clear, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. Then what was going on? "Let's go out and see," Cui Haoyan said and walked forward with Zhang Yunfeng. However, before they walked out of the dormitory building, a figure rushed in. Seeing the person, everyone's eyes lit up and asked, "Xiaoyingjie, what's going on outside?" Xiaoyingjie looked at the curious crowd and said with a sigh, "It's said that the cultivators from the previous special enrollment class have returned. Everyone is cheering." Hearing this, the new students of the special enrollment class could not help but be puzzled. Cultivators from the previous special enrollment class? Those were the students who had already graduated. Why did their return cause such a stir? Could it be that, after they graduated, they would also cause such a sensation when they returned? However, after hearing Xiaoyingjie's words, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan could not help but look at each other. A bright light appeared in their eyes. It must be Gong Xiaoqing and the others. Cui Haoyan immediately said. Zhang Yunfeng also nodded. Thinking about it, only Gong Xiaoqing and the others could cause such a sensation in the college. Thinking back to when Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu were in the college, their reputation was extremely resounding and attracted thousands of students. Later, after Gong Xiaoqing and the others left, the students of Canglan College lamented for a long time. Now that they had returned, it was normal to cause such a sensation. Yes, it's them. After hearing this familiar name, Xiaoyingjie quickly nodded. After getting Xiaoyingjie's affirmation, the smiles on Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's faces deepened. They immediately rushed outside. After not seeing each other for 2 years, they really missed this group of old friends. Xiaoyingjie and the other newcomers looked at each other. They had also heard of the reputation of Gong Xiaoqing and the others, but they never knew that they had such a great influence in the college. Wasn't this commotion a little too frightening? While Cui Haoyan and Wang Yao rushed out excitedly, the same thing was happening in another place. Alchemist Association. Lu Qingyue was refining pills. These days, she had been a little restless. She forced herself to calm down and refine pills. Back then, Big Brother Gong had left to participate in the selection for the assessment competition. Later on, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had returned with a piece of news. Brother Gong and the rest had all gone to participate in the assessment competition. For the assessment competition, she could only wait here for 2 years. She didn't know much about the assessment, so she kept asking her master about it. Chapter 1636. As Lu Qingyue continued to talk and listen to the news of the previous assessment competitions, the more she understood, the more worried she became. According to what everyone said, the assessment competition was extremely dangerous and losing one's life was a common occurrence. With so many talented cultivators gathered together, the slightest bit of carelessness could cause one to stay there forever. Every time she heard such cruel news, her heart would tremble. She was afraid that if Big Brother Gong never came back, what should she do? As the 2 years gradually passed, the worry in her heart became more and more intense. Before the 2 years were up, she could still comfort herself. But now that the 2 years were up, if she still didn't see Big Brother Gong, it meant that Big Brother Gong had encountered danger and might never come back. Thinking of this, Lu Qingyue felt uncomfortable in her heart, so uncomfortable that even breathing was difficult. As the days passed, her heart became even more chaotic. If Big Brother Gong didn't come back in a few days, then there really wouldn't be any hope. Therefore, she only hoped that time would pass slower, so that she could continue to wait with hope. At this moment, a figure quickly ran into the Alchemist Guild. "Miss Lu, Gong Shaoqing and the rest are back." Hearing this, Lu Qingyue couldn't help but be stunned. That delicate and beautiful face was instantly filled with ecstasy. She didn't care about the pill she was refining and quickly walked to the cultivator's side and asked, "Is what you said true? Are they really back?" "They're back, they're really back." After hearing the other party's confirmation, Lu Qingyue's eyes revealed an unconcealable ecstasy. She waited for so long and finally waited for Big Brother Gong to come back. Luckily, they walked out of the assessment competition safely. In the next moment, without waiting for the cultivator to react, Lu Qingyue had already rushed out of the Alchemist Guild. The cultivator stared blankly at the direction Lu Qingyue left in, his face filled with doubt. He had never seen Miss Li lose her self-control like this. Chi! A muffled sound came from the pill furnace, following which a burnt smell spread out. The cultivator stared blankly at the pill furnace that emitted an unpleasant smell. Miss Lu didn't even care about the pill? At this moment, Lu Qingyue only had one thought in her mind, and that was to quickly see Gong Shaoqing. As for medicinal pills or other things, she didn't care at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked all the way forward, and not long after, 2 familiar figures appeared in front of them. Looking at the 2 figures, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others showed a smile. "Cui Haoyan." Dongfang Yu smiled. Cui Haoyan walked up and gave Dongfang Yu a punch. Then, under the astonished gazes of the students, the 2 of them hugged each other. "Good boy, you came back safely." Cui Haoyan joked, but his face was full of joy. When he left Heavenly Dipper sect, his mood was extremely complicated. On one hand, he felt that he couldn't fight side by side with Dongfang Yu and the others. On the other hand, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to see them again. Fortunately, now that everyone had returned safely, he could be at ease. Zhang Yunfeng also walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing, her face full of joy. "Hongzhuang, Jiqing, you're finally back." Chapter 1637. When they were cultivating in the academy, their relationship was very good. Now that they had not seen each other for 2 years, they felt happy to see each other again. "How have you been in the Kanglan Academy for the past 2 years? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Zhang Yunfeng nodded and then shook her head. "Except for not being able to see you guys, everything else is very good." When only she and Cui Haoyan returned to the Kanglan Academy, they could not help but feel a sense of loss. They had been with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others for so long that they had long been used to being together. Now that only the two of them were left, they naturally felt very bored when they returned to the academy. Although the academy later recruited new students and the special enrollment class also had new students, it was not the same for them. Without familiar companions, they felt very bored when they cultivated. It was precisely because of this that now that they saw everyone back, they could not help but be happy. "Haha, Yunfeng, you really know how to talk," Xia Jiqing teased. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes were serious. "I'm telling the truth." The next moment, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes fell on Di Beichen again. When she first learned about the identity of Di Beichen at the academy tournament, she was already very shocked. But it was not until she went to Tiangang sect that she really understood what kind of person Di Beichen was. Now that Hong Zhuang was out of the assessment tournament, Di Beichen also came back with her. It could be seen that the relationship between the two was still very good. Thinking of this, the smile in Zhang Yunfeng's eyes deepened. "Look, their relationship with Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng is so good. Gong Haoyan and the others in Cui Haoyan are students of the same batch. Their relationship is naturally very good, but they later went to participate in the assessment tournament, so they were not in the academy. I don't know how Gong Haoyan and the others did in the assessment tournament. Now that they are back, everyone's welcome is really a bit scary. I don't know, but I think that the cultivators who can come out of the assessment tournament alive are already very good." Everyone was talking about it. It was rare for the academy to be so lively. They were curious. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were busy catching up, a gentle and pleasant voice suddenly rang out. "Brother Gong." This call was filled with urgency, joy, and longing. Upon hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all turned to look. They were very familiar with that voice. Other than Lu Qinyue, who else could it be? Turning around, everyone saw Lu Qinyue standing not far behind them. He saw that Lu Qinyue was still wearing a hibiscus-colored dress. Her delicate and beautiful face was the same as before, but it was even more beautiful and moving. Her face was slightly red and her forehead was covered in sweat. Obviously, she had run all the way here. Seeing the appearance of Lu Qinyue, the faces of the students present changed again. It seems that the two beauties of the Azure Water School are really worthy of their reputation. When I first saw Lu Qinyue, I was already shocked. Today I saw Bailey Haoyan, but she is not worse than Lu Qinyue. I think she is even better. If you don't see it with your own eyes, you really can't imagine it. Only when you really see it can you understand the shock. Chapter 1638. The eyes of many cultivators present fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone had only seen Lu Qinyue in the Azure Water School for so long, but for Bailey Hongzhuang, who was as famous as Lu Qinyue, they had only heard of her, but had never seen her in person. Seeing her today, they found that the rumors were true. Bailey Hongzhuang was really amazing. Compared to Lu Qinyue's gentle beauty, Bailey Hongzhuang was more delicate and strong. Her eyes revealed an unyielding look, and the aura exuding from her body was even more amazing. After 2 years of experience, Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament and aura had become more obvious than before. She was really magnificent. Therefore, looking at her again, everyone felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was more in line with the cultivator's aesthetic. Listening to Lu Qinyue's call, Gong Shaoqing's eyes also fell on Lu Qinyue's body. His cold eyes quietly changed a bit. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, and a teasing light appeared in their eyes. Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue had known each other for so long, but they still hadn't been together. They really hoped that this time the two of them could be together. "Qinyue," Gong Shaoqing slowly said. Lu Qinyue stepped forward and directly walked in front of Gong Shaoqing. The longing and joy in her eyes were not hidden at all. "Big brother Gong, fortunately you came back." Lu Qinyue couldn't hide her emotions. Her eyes were slightly red, and crystal-clear tears quietly emerged. She couldn't control them at all. In the past 2 years, she had been living in fear, worried that Big Brother Gong would not be able to return. Every time in the dead of night she would think, if Big Brother Gong didn't come back, what should she do? If Big Brother Gong came back, there were already other women by his side, what should she do? If Big Brother Gong didn't want to come back, what should she do? With all these emotions intertwined, she only felt that she was going crazy. She always understood that Big Brother Gong only treated her as a sister, and Big Brother Gong also made this point very clear. However, she was still unwilling to give up. As long as there were no other women by Big Brother Gong's side, she would not give up. At least, for her, she only had Big Brother Gong in her heart. No one else could come in. She would persist until she knew there was no hope. Now that Big Brother Gong had come back, she only felt that all her worries were completely put down. Under this kind of joy, she couldn't control her tears. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Lu Qinyue's appearance. As women, they were very clear about how hard it was for Lu Qinyue to come all this way. They also admired her persistence in this relationship. Unfortunately, they couldn't completely. And they couldn't help. After all, Lu Qinyue's feelings had been expressed very clearly. It was just that Gong Shaoqing had never understood all this. They could not casually matchmake them. If the situation was not as they thought, then their matchmaking would be no different from harming them. Therefore, they could only hoped they would be able to be happy. Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly, and the cold arc on his face also became gentler. I said I'll come back safely. Chapter 1639. Seeing Lu Qinyue like this, Gong Shaoqing also panicked. He immediately approached Lu Qinyue and handed a handkerchief to Lu Qinyue. Don't cry. I've already returned safely. Why are you still crying? Gong Shaoqing comforted Lu Qinyue. Seeing Lu Qinyue like this, he knew that Lu Qinyue must have been worried about him these days. Lu Qinyue took the handkerchief and wiped her tears. Her pretty face revealed a smile. I'm just too happy. After seeing this scene, how could the students not understand that Lu Qinyue and Gong Shaoqing had feelings for each other? For a moment, many men's hearts were broken. One must know that Lu Qinyue had always been the goddess in their hearts. Many men wanted to pursue Lu Qinyue, but Lu Qinyue never responded. Although there was no response, everyone didn't care. After all, they weren't the only ones who didn't respond. No response, this meant that they still had hope. Moreover, in such a long time, they had never seen another man by Lu Qinyue's side. No one would have thought that the person in Lu Qinyue's heart was actually Gong Shaoqing. Now that Gong Shaoqing had returned, all the fantasies in their hearts would be completely shattered. Heavens, Lu Qinyue actually likes Gong Qinyue. I hate that. Doesn't that mean that we don't have any chance at all? The group of women looked at the heartbroken men and smiled. I've already said that Lu Qinyue's heart must belong to someone else. It's impossible for her to fancy you. Now you should give up. Just by looking at the scene of Lu Qinyue and Gong Shaoqing getting along, they could understand that the two of them had deep feelings for each other. It wasn't something that others could destroy. Lu Qinyue has no hope, but Bai Li Qinyue still has hope. The group of male disciples once again ignited hope. Although they lost Lu Qinyue, they had Bai Li Qinyue. This was also extremely good. Yes, Bai Li Qinyue is so beautiful and powerful. She's really the goddess in my heart. In the future, the person I admire is Bai Li Qinyue. The group of male students expressed their opinions. At least, they still had hope in their hearts. After seeing this scene, the female students also frowned, but there was nothing they could do. However, in the next moment, the sound of hearts breaking rang out again. When Di Beichen heard that so many male students actually dared to covet his wife, he was stunned. What a joke! That would depend on whether he agreed or not. Then, under the astonished eyes of the students, Di Beichen directly grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, declaring his sovereignty. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen suddenly hugging her, her clear eyes couldn't help but be filled with a hint of surprise. However, she quickly understood and the smile in her eyes couldn't help but deepen. It had been 2 years since they last met, but Beichen's jealous nature had not changed at all. Facing Bailey Hongzhuang's teasing gaze, Di Beichen didn't care at all. Hongzhuang was his wife. She was his legal wife. Other people couldn't even get close. Cui Haoyan saw that there were more and more students around. It wasn't convenient for everyone to continue chatting here. He immediately suggested, "Why don't we go back to the dormitory first?" Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded in agreement. "Okay, let's go back first." Chapter 1640. Under the gaze of the students, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to the special enrollment dormitory. Looking at the red house again, everyone's eyes were filled with nostalgia. The principal and vice principal knew that you went to participate in the assessment competition, so this house has been kept for you. Cui Haoyan said with a smile. Really? Everyone was surprised. They didn't think that this house would be kept for them. It was too surprising. Cui Haoyan nodded slightly. It's true. The key is still in your hands. Open it and you will know. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing all opened the door of the room. They saw that the furnishings in the house were the same as when they left. There was no change. Seeing this scene, everyone's heart was moved. No one knew if they would come back again, but the Kanglan College had been keeping the dormitory for them. How could this not be moved? This house is very clean. Has anyone helped us clean it? Xia Jiqing looked at the clean and cheerful house in surprise. It was reasonable to say that they hadn't lived in it for 2 years. The house should be covered with a lot of dust. She didn't expect it to be so clean now. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked at Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng. Obviously, only the two of them could give an answer. Zhang Yunfeng smiled slightly. We will find someone to help you clean the house every once in a while. So when you come back, you can directly live there. Yunfeng, thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was sincere and full of gratitude. Just from this action, one could see Yunfeng's affection for them. Zhang Yunfeng smiled and waved her hand. This is a small matter. We are looking forward to you coming back safely. Since that's the case, why don't we sit in my house? Bai Junyu suggested. Everyone nodded. They hadn't seen each other for so long and had a lot to talk about. As everyone walked into the house, Lu Qinyue and Gong Shaoqing were still outside. Dongfang Yu directly closed the door. We will talk about our things. You can talk about yours. As soon as he finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others in the room couldn't help but laugh. Outside the room, Gong Shaoqing looked at the tightly shut door in front of him, a deep sense of helplessness surfacing on his face. He should have expected this group of people to do this. Lu Qinyue stood behind Gong Shaoqing. Her pretty face was slightly red and she was at a loss. Gong Shaoqing turned around and looked at the beautiful and gentle Lu Qinyue in front of him. He slowly said, Qinyue, why don't we go to my house? Obviously, it was impossible for these guys to let him in. Qinyue probably also had a lot to say to him. It was better for them to have a good chat. Hearing Gong Shaoqing's words, Lu Qinyue nodded and said softly, Okay. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Gong Shaoqing's face. Then, he walked upstairs with Lu Qinyue. Dongfang Yu and Cui Haoyan leaned against the door and listened to the movements outside. When they heard the footsteps gradually fade away, smiles appeared on their faces. They've already left, Dongfang Yu said with a smile. Zhang Yufeng helplessly looked at Cui Haoyan and Lu Qinyue and said, You guys are too bad. Dongfang Yu chuckled. His peach blossom eyes were raised, revealing playfulness and craftiness. Chapter 1641. Listening to Dongfang Yu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also nodded their heads. That's right, they really should have a good talk. Qinyue has been waiting for Gong Shaoqing for many years. Zhang Yunfeng's pretty face was filled with a bit of helplessness. In these 2 years, she knew how Lu Qingyue had survived. In comparison, although she wasn't as beautiful as Lu Qingyue and couldn't compare to Lu Qingyue's identity as an alchemist, at least Cui Haoyan had always been very good to her. As a woman, she felt that this was the most important point. Not counting the 2 years of the exam, Lu Qingyue had been in love with Gong Xiaoqing for a long time. If this continued, she really didn't know when Lu Qingyue would be able to wait for the arrival of feelings. I hope Xiaoqing can be enlightened this time. It's not easy to find a woman who treats you sincerely in this world. Dongfang Yu sighed. As Gong Xiaoqing's brother for so many years, he naturally hoped that Gong Xiaoqing could be happy. Whether Gong Xiaoqing treated Lu Qingyue as a sister or as a beloved woman, at least Gong Xiaoqing treated Lu Qingyue differently. He believed that if Gong Xiaoqing really treated Lu Qingyue as a sister and didn't have any feelings for her, Gong Xiaoqing wouldn't have such an attitude. He will understand, he just needs some time. Di Beichen continued. He could see that Gong Xiaoqing didn't know what kind of feelings he had for Lu Qingyue, so he needed some time to think clearly. He believed that as long as Gong Xiaoqing carefully thought about this matter, he would definitely understand. After hearing Di Beichen's words, everyone nodded one after another. Their thoughts were similar to Di Beichen's. That's right, what wonderful things happened in the exam in these 2 years. Come and tell me. Zhang Yunfeng's face was full of curiosity. In these 2 years, every time Lu Qingyue received news of the exam, she would tell her. The cruelty made her even more amazed. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had returned from the exam, she naturally wanted to hear what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had to say. After all, their words were more authentic and credible. Yunfeng, it's really a pity that you didn't participate in the competition. What happened in there is really too wonderful. Xia Zhiqing immediately sat next to Zhang Yunfeng and told her about what they had encountered in the assessment. She felt that what she had experienced in the past 2 years of the assessment was simply a fortuitous encounter. She had long wanted to find someone to talk about it. Now that Yunfeng wanted to hear it, she was more than happy to tell her. Everyone saw that Xia Zhiqing was talking happily, and Zhang Yunfeng was listening happily. One was willing to hit and the other was willing to be hit. They were very happy. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang, Dongfang Yu and the others looked at each other and smiled. Xia Zhiqing never stopped talking, and Bai Junyu often added on the side. Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan, on the other hand, were fascinated by the story. They felt that the small world was a completely different and novel world. All the encounters were amazing. After hearing about these exciting encounters, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan couldn't help but feel envious. Compared to that, the past 2 years they had spent cultivating in the Azure Water School were too boring. If they could have participated in the exam with everyone, it would have been great. Chapter 1642. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xia Zhiqing, Bai Junyu and Dongfang Yu who were talking excitedly, as well as Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan who were listening on the side. She couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Now the matter of participating in the assessment competition had become the capital for everyone to brag about, but seeing everyone so happy, her mood was also very good. Turning her head, Bailey Hongzhuang found that Di Beichen was also listening on the side. Her pretty face couldn't help but show a touch of surprise. Beichen, why are you listening so seriously? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. It was reasonable to say that with Di Beichen's character, he shouldn't be interested in these things. Di Beichen smiled and held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand, saying, I also want to know what you have experienced during the time I was away. In the past 2 years, he had been staying in Tiangang sect and didn't know what Hongzhuang had experienced. Now listening to the narration of Xia Zhiqing and others, he understood more about the risks Hongzhuang had experienced in the past 2 years. A little carelessness could have cost her her life. He was very clear about the risks and hardships to win first place in the assessment competition. During that period of time, he could not be by Hongzhuang's side. After listening to Xia Jiqing's words, he suddenly felt grateful to Mo Yunjue. Because, during the time he was away, Mo Yunjue had been taking care of Hong Zhuang. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart softened and she was quietly moved. In the past 2 years you have worked hard, but I haven't been able to be with you. Di Beichen blamed himself. He had secretly vowed to take care of Hong Zhuang and not let Hong Zhuang be in danger. However, when Hong Zhuang was in danger, he wasn't by her side. Speaking of which, as her husband, he really didn't fulfill the responsibilities that he should have. Bailey Hongzhuang looked into Di Beichen's deep eyes and saw the guilt and self-blame in his eyes. She couldn't help but hold Di Beichen's hand. Her eyes were filled with emotion. Beichen, I understand your feelings for me. There are many risks that I should take on myself. I know that you've done a lot for me during the 2 years that I've been participating in the assessment. If you still blame yourself, then wouldn't I blame myself to death? Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen. In fact, she should be the one blaming herself and feeling guilty. From the beginning to the end, Di Beichen had been helping her take care of her, helping her vent her anger, helping her take revenge, helping her investigate her background, and helping her take care of her teammates. However, other than helping Di Beichen stand up again, she didn't do anything else. Back then, Di Beichen endured so much pressure from Tiangang sect just to be with her, but she was completely unaware. After that, Di Beichen dealt with everything in Tiangang sect and consolidated his position. Similarly, she didn't help at all. On the contrary, because of her appearance, everyone started to doubt Di Beichen. Because of her appearance, the elders of Tiangang sect also gave Di Beichen a lot of pressure. All of this, she did not help in any way, it was only Di Beichen who bore the burden alone. Di Beichen never cared about these things. He just took care of her. She only felt that meeting Di Beichen was the greatest fortune in her life. How could she feel that Di Beichen wasn't good at all? Chapter 1643. You being able to come back and return to my side is the best thing that can happen to me. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang affectionately. Along the way, they had a lot of helplessness and too many things to do. Fortunately, Hong Zhuang was always able to understand him. Looking at Di Beichen like this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart became more and more moved. Under such circumstances, all words seemed to pale in comparison. They could both understand each other's heart that was desperately trying to be good to them. Xia Jiqing and the others were talking happily and did not notice the situation of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. They also did not know how much shock Di Beichen had when they talked about all the dangers. Di Beichen just listened carefully to everyone. Dongfang Yu and the others were not people who exaggerated the fact. Therefore, Di Beichen understood more about everything that had happened in the past 2 years. After hearing that Bailey Hongzhuang was desperately trying to obtain the inheritance, and that even Mo Yunjue was seriously injured and unconscious, Di Beichen could not help but tighten his grip on Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Mo Yunjue was very strong, but even Mo Yunjue was injured. Hong Zhuang was still persevering. It could be seen how intense the pain Hong Zhuang suffered at that time was. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard about this matter, she also felt sorry for Mo Yunjue. At that time, she only wanted to climb to the 100th floor and did not care about what happened behind. Speaking of which, she was extremely lucky. If it were not for the existence of the colorful energy in her body, she would only have a dead end if she went up. Mo Yunjue was much stronger than her, but he was seriously injured and unconscious under that huge pressure. It was reasonable to say that her situation should be worse than Mo Yunjue's. However, it was that rainbow energy that reduced the pressure on her, allowing her to climb up to the 100th level. Now that she recalled that scene, even she felt a wave of lingering fear. Fortunately, she was lucky at that time. Otherwise, she would have lost her life. Di Beichen was even more afraid. If anything had happened at that time, Hong Zhuang would not have been able to come back. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so desperate at a time like this. It seemed like the matter of her parents had put a lot of pressure on Hongzhuang. If not, Hongzhuang would not be so desperate. There were many powerful cultivators around him, but there were very few who could fight as hard as Hongzhuang. Di Beichen's heart sank. They had to rescue Hongzhuang's parents as soon as possible. They still had enough time to prepare to deal with the Yu clan and the Lan clan, but saving Hongzhuang's parents was a matter of urgency. Bailey Hongzhuang felt that Di Beichen's hand that was holding hers tightened a little. She could not help but hold Di Beichen's hand back. Fortunately, she managed to pull through. Not only that, but she also got an excellent inheritance. It was just that she had not had time to tell Di Beichen about this. These days, everyone had been rushing together. She and Di Beichen had very little time to be alone together. However, today they finally arrived at the Kanglan College. They could say what they wanted to say. Time always passed very quickly during these happy times. While Xia Jiqing and the others were talking, they didn't know that it was already evening. The three beasts took the lead and said, "It's getting late, it's time to eat." Listening to the reminder of the three beasts, the people who were talking happily recovered. Chapter 1644. We're not in a hurry to leave tomorrow. If everyone wants to chat, there's plenty of time. Why don't we go to the elegant cloud residence first? Di Beichen stood up and said. Hearing Di Beichen's words, the three beasties looked at Di Beichen with excitement. Di Beichen was so good. Dongfang Yu nodded slightly. Yes, let's go to the restaurant and drink. I haven't tasted wine in 2 years. Thinking back to when they were in the Azure Water School, they would go to the elegant cloud residence from time to time and enjoy themselves. When they were participating in the exam, they rarely had the chance to eat hot dishes, let alone drink wine. Moreover, in a place like the pocket dimension that was full of danger, the slightest carelessness could cause them to lose their life. They didn't dare to relax at all. Now that they were back and could have a good rest, they felt very comfortable. Then let's go. Bai Junyu smiled. Speaking of eating, he was also a bit hungry. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood up and walked outside. After walking out of the room, they found that Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue hadn't come down yet. They immediately stopped at the door. Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue haven't come down yet. Should we go up and find them or go to the elegant cloud residence first? Dongfang Yu looked at everyone and asked. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They didn't know what to do in this situation. If they went up and disturbed Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue, it wouldn't be good. But if they went up by themselves and Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue didn't know where they were, what should they do? Just as everyone was hesitating, the sound of footsteps came from upstairs. Looking carefully, everyone found that the people who came were Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue. Gong Shaoqing still had an expressionless face. Lu Qinyue's eyes were slightly red. It was obvious that she had just cried. Everyone looked at Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue, their minds constantly guessing the result of their conversation. However, looking at their expressions, he really couldn't guess what was going on. Feeling everyone's gaze, Gong Shaoqing couldn't help but say, "Why are you looking at us? Aren't we going to the elegant cloud residence now?" Hearing this, Dongfang Yu withdrew his gaze and nodded. "Let's go. We'll go to elegant cloud residence now." Dongfang Yu winked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was obvious that he wouldn't be able to get any answers from them right now. It would be better to wait until after dinner. "Let's go then," Di Beichen said. Elegant cloud residence. In Kanglan City, no matter where Di Beichen's group went, they were the center of attention. Everyone's gaze fell on them as they discussed animatedly. Their gazes were filled with envy and yearning. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were already used to this. The reason why so many people were paying attention to them was because of their performance in the tournament, and also because they were cultivators who came back alive from the assessment tournament. These two incidents made them the center of attention of all the students in the school. After all, these competitions were also what they wanted to experience. When everyone arrived at the Elegant Cloud residence, the owner of the Elegant Cloud residence immediately greeted Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing. Dongfang Gongzi, you came. The owner's face was filled with a happy smile. Dongfang Yu and the others used to come to the Elegant Cloud residence to drink. They hadn't come for more than 2 years. Now that they came again, he was very surprised. Chapter 1645. Young Master Dongfang, I guessed that you would come, so I have already prepared everything for you. The boss smiled. Dongfang Yu was a little surprised, then smiled and said, Boss is smart, you have already expected it. Under the guidance of the waiter, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered a private room. Good wine and dishes came one after another. Everyone had not eaten such delicious food for a long time. Today they just wanted to reward themselves. Speaking of which, the combat effectiveness of their team was not weak. Apart from themselves, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, Baisher, Xiao Feng and Xiao, who needed to eat a lot. Although Xiao Feng and Xiao, who were still very young, their appetites were very amazing, and they ate a lot each time. When they were in the small world, they did not need to worry. They hunted a lot of monsters every day, so Xiao Feng and Xiao who could eat as much as they wanted. However, now that they were out of the small world, it was not so easy. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu's pockets were rapidly shrinking. At this time, they realized how difficult it was for Hong Zhuang to raise 3 beasts. They were afraid that only the financial resources of their boss could afford to raise 3 beasts. If it was them, it would be very difficult to raise 1 beast. Now they only felt that if they did not earn money, the wind spirit tiger would starve to death with them. Since we are back, let's go see the principal, vice principal and the mentors tomorrow morning. Gong Shaoqing suggested. It was not early when they arrived in Songlan City today, so they did not visit the principal and the others. As a part of Songlan College, now that they were back, they naturally had to visit. Otherwise, it would be inexcusable. We also planned to do the same. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. This was the most important thing for them to come back. Haha, then let's drink today. The private room was filled with hearty laughter. Everyone was extremely happy as they toasted each other. This was a rare relaxation after 2 years of hardship, and they just wanted to get drunk. The 5 beasts gathered together, and He Mu became the person who took care of them. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher gobbled up the food without any qualms. Xiao Feng and Xiao who had never tasted such dishes before, so they were a little confused. However, after tasting the first mouthful, Xiao Feng and Little Tiger's eyes lit up, and they immediately followed Xiao He and the others to eat heartily. In comparison, eating demonic beast meat directly wouldn't taste as good as this. At this moment, Xiao Feng and Xiao who finally understood why the 3 beasties kept talking about coming to the restaurant to eat. This was simply a delicacy on earth. Eating these, they felt that their lives were complete. He Mu saw that the original 3 gluttons were already gluttonous enough, and now there were 2 more little gluttons. It looked like young Madam and the others were going further and further on the path of raising gluttonous demonic beasts. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others set a record in Elegant Cloud residence. It was a record of eating the most. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hadn't had enough hot food for a long time. Now that they were eating, they felt that the taste was simply too good to be true. Immediately, everyone started eating and drinking. Very soon, they were all cleaned up. Chapter 1646. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came out of Elegant Cloud residence, it was already very late. Most of the people in Songlan City had already rested. Everyone hadn't relaxed for a long time. After today's indulgence, they all walked to the special enrollment dormitory drunk. Of all the people present, only He Mu was still sober. Because he had to take care of the 5 beasts, he didn't drink before, but later he was pulled by Dongfang Yu and the others to drink a lot. In the end, he was also a little dizzy, but his situation was a bit better than the others. Everyone staggered all the way back to the special enrollment dormitory. Heimu helped everyone open the door. Bai Junyu entered the room and lay directly on the bed. Heimu then put Little Tiger in the room and then closed the door. Xia Jiqing and the others also returned to their own rooms. Heimu opened Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Bailey Hongzhuang walked directly into the room dizzily and lay on the bed, feeling very comfortable. Di Beichen also walked into the room. He only felt that his whole person was floating on the clouds until he was lying on the clouds. Heimu also walked into the room. The three beasts were tightly lying on his body, unwilling to get down. He was also very helpless. Heimu fell directly on the bed, and the three beasts slept beside him, looking very happy. Not only did Heimu and the others drink, but the three beasts also drank. They had always been curious about what kind of wine everyone drank and how it tasted, so they also tasted it. However, after tasting it, they only felt that their whole head was dizzy and their bodies became soft. They were very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a little cold at night and couldn't help but want to find a quilt to cover herself with. But after reaching out for a long time, she couldn't find the existence of a quilt at all. In the process of searching, Bailey Hongzhuang found a warm place beside her and immediately approached it. Suddenly finding a warm stove in this cold winter night, Bailey Hongzhuang felt extremely happy. She hugged the stove tightly and fell asleep. She also felt the stove hugging her tightly. The night gradually faded, and the sun slowly rose from the horizon. The first rays of dawn shone on the earth. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly woke up. Her slender eyebrows were slightly knitted. She had drunk too much wine last night. When she woke up in the morning, her head was still dizzy. Opening her eyes in a daze, Bailey Hongzhuang was about to get up when she suddenly found a handsome face in front of her, close at hand. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately woke up and couldn't help but be stunned. When she took a closer look, she realized that she was sleeping in Di Beichen's arms. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but recall how she felt cold when she was sleeping last night. She kept looking for a blanket and finally found a heater. She hugged it tightly and fell asleep. Could it be that heater was Di Beichen? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's face couldn't help but be stained with a crimson red. Her heart thumped wildly. Then, what should I do now? Bailey Hongzhuang's mind quickly worked. Should I take advantage of this opportunity to escape? Not to mention that Di Beichen's hand was still wrapped around her waist. If I leave now, Di Beichen will definitely wake up. If Di Beichen sees me in the process of escaping, wouldn't it be even more difficult to explain? Pretending to be asleep? That's right. Chapter 1647. After deciding what to do, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pretended to be asleep. However, after closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Di Beichen didn't move. She couldn't help but open her eyes again. Looking at Di Beichen at such a close distance, she only felt that Di Beichen's handsome face was like a sculpture, angular and impeccable. Thick eyebrows, charming eyes, a handsome nose, and seductive lips. His skin wasn't as rough as an ordinary man's, nor was it as delicate as a man's. Instead, it was somewhere in between, full of manliness. The sleeping Di Beichen was less domineering and evil, and more gentle and well-behaved. He was like the boy next door, giving people a different feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang's hand slowly stroked the contours of Di Beichen's face. Those slender, fan-like eyelashes were enough to make a woman feel ashamed. He was really very good-looking, Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself. Even among the men she had seen in her 2 lives, there was still no one who could compare to Di Beichen. This was a face that no matter how you looked at it, you would never get tired of looking at it. It was perfect, flawless, and impeccable. Bailey Hongzhuang supported her head and stared at Di Beichen's face. The more she looked, the more unscrupulous she became. Di Beichen's sleeping appearance clearly meant that he wouldn't wake up in a short time. Therefore, she became bolder. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze moved from Di Beichen's eyebrows to Di Beichen's lip. His lips were also very good-looking. His beautiful rose-colored lips were always curved at a charming angle. When they opened and closed, They were filled with an indescribable charm. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was staring at Di Beichen, suddenly, a force came from the back of her head, and her body leaned forward uncontrollably. And her lips happened to be pressed against Di Beichen's lips. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was suddenly dyed with a touch of crimson. She could feel the warm touch on her lips, soft and slightly cool, with a faint mint smell. Di Beichen suddenly opened his eyes and licked his lips in satisfaction. His starry eyes were filled with a bright smile. "My wife has looked at your husband for so long. Have you seen enough?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen's bright eyes. How could he be sleepy? Obviously, he couldn't be any more sober. This guy was just pretending to be asleep. "You're pretending to be asleep." Bailey Hongzhuang blushed and looked at Di Beichen with dissatisfaction. This guy was too bad. He was simply a big bad wolf. Di Beichen curved his charming thin lips. "If I didn't pretend to be asleep, how could my wife look at me so boldly?" Looking at Di Beichen's devilishly charming and reasonable appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of indignation. "I didn't." "You didn't?" Di Beichen raised his handsome eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. His eyes were full of ridicule. "I was very careful." Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and said slyly, "Just now, this hand kept brushing past my face." Bailey Hongzhuang immediately withdrew her hand and tried to quibble. "I didn't." "You didn't?" Di Beichen narrowed his eyes and slowly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. "You took advantage of me and you still don't want to admit it?" Bailey Hongzhuang felt a dangerous aura and couldn't help but retreat a few steps. She still denied it. "When did I take advantage of you? You're obviously the one who took advantage of me." Hearing this, Di Beichen suddenly laughed and flipped over onto Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Chapter 1648. Suddenly being covered by Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a touch of panic, and her beautiful face was quickly dyed with a touch of crimson. "Di Beichen, what is he doing?" Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to react, Di Beichen's thin lips covered her red lips again. However, this kiss was not as shallow as before, but deeper. Tossing and turning, it was full of surging longing and possessiveness. Di Beichen originally only wanted to bully Bailey Hongzhuang, but he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang's lips to be so magical. That touch of fragrance intoxicated and infatuated him, and he only wanted to go deeper and taste her sweetness. He missed her so much. For the past 2 years, he had missed her almost every day. He missed her smile, he missed her voice, he missed everything about her. Bailey Hongzhuang passively endured it at first. Although Di Beichen's kiss was urgent and domineering, Bailey Hongzhuang could still feel his gentleness. Gradually, Bailey Hongzhuang also responded to Di Beichen. She also missed him, missed everything about him, and hoped to see him soon, and hoped that she could always be by his side in the future. The atmosphere in the room gradually heated up. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was covered with red, and her breathing became a little faster. Di Beichen only felt that his body was about to burn up, and an uncontrollable desire exploded from his body. In such a blurred and ambiguous atmosphere, Di Beichen's big hand slowly covered Bailey Hongzhuang's softness. Feeling Di Beichen's action, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned for a moment. Her body stiffened for a moment, and her mind recovered a trace of rationality. She could not help but grab Di Beichen's hand, and did not let him continue. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his starry eyes filled with deep affection, longing and a trace of nervousness. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen, and her heart suddenly softened. Yes, she was already Di Beichen's wife. After 2 years of testing, Di Beichen had already proven his sincerity. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's hand gradually lowered. Noticing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen was shocked for a moment, and his heart could not help but surge. He hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. He knew what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. "Hongzhuang, I love you." Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang affectionately. He clearly understood Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings for him. I love you too. Bailey Hongzhuang's face burst into a smile. Her expression was a bit shy, and her beautiful eyes were also filled with deep affection. However, at this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Hongzhuang, are you up? Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and then said, I'm up. However, her voice could not help but be a bit hoarse. We will set off to see the principal in a while. You can come out after you freshen up, Xia Jiqing said with a smile. Last night they were all drunk. Fortunately, they were all cultivators and their physical fitness was very good. Being drunk would not have any impact on them. Yesterday, they came back too late and did not go to see the principal and mentors. If they did not go today, it would be unreasonable. Okay, I will come out in a while. Bailey Hongzhuang responded. Chapter 1649. There was a burst of footsteps at the door. Obviously, everyone was waiting for them to leave. There was no other way. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes showed a teasing and sly smile. She looked at Di Beichen playfully and said, We should get up. Even if Di Beichen was interrupted at this time, his eyes could not help but show annoyance. Damn it! Di Beichen's heart was helpless. This was really fate. Looking at Di Beichen's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but giggle. She really saw Di Beichen like this for the first time. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's proud posture, Di Beichen's eyes narrowed and attacked again. After kissing Bailey Hongzhuang's lips, Di Beichen said, What a bunch of untimely guys. After tidying up, Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the house and Di Beichen directly jumped out of the window. Although Di Beichen did not mind, he knew that if he went out with Hongzhuang, Hongzhuang would be embarrassed, so it was better for him to go out from the window. By the time Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, almost everyone had already gathered. Hongzhuang, you are here. Xia Jiqing smiled. I slept in a daze last night and didn't know what happened. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Yes, everyone hasn't been so relaxed for a long time. She really didn't know what happened last night, just as she didn't know why she saw Di Beichen when she opened her eyes in the morning. Di Beichen and He Mu haven't come out yet. Bai Junyu said, He Mu seems to be drunk. He drank a little wine and got drunk. Although he was confused last night, he remembered that He Mu drank the least, much less than them. However, Darkwood's reaction was not much better than theirs. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and bright phoenix eyes were deep in thought as she spoke. Maybe He Mu didn't drink much before. As Di Beichen's secret guard, Darkwood had always been hiding in the dark, maintaining a clear mind at all times. He probably wouldn't drink at all. Yesterday, after Dongfang Yu and the others drank, they went crazy. They pulled He Mu and began to drink. Not only He Mu, even the 5 beasts drank a lot. People who drank alcohol for the first time tended to react more violently, so it was normal that Blackwood hadn't gotten up yet. Haha, then He Mu must be feeling better now. Dongfang Yu chuckled. Although they didn't have much interaction with He Mu was an adorable fellow who easily left a good impression on others and was easy to bully. At this time, Di Beichen walked in from outside the dormitory. Everyone is already up. When they saw Di Beichen return from outside, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. Di Beichen, when did you get up? Xia Jiqing asked in surprise. I'm used to waking up early to cultivate. Seeing that you didn't get up, I went outside for a walk. Di Beichen's face was really red when he lied. His calm appearance, if Bailey Hongzhuang did not know what had happened before, she was afraid that she would have believed it to be true. You're really amazing. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Beichen with admiration. The young lord of Tiangang sect was really extraordinary. He must have cultivated harder than them. Not only Xia Jiqing, but Dongfang Yu and the others also admired Di Beichen. Chapter 1650. After experiencing so many things, their thoughts were much more mature than before. Wanting to be in a high position was never as simple as looking at reputation. For a genius like Di Baichen, if he didn't work hard enough, his strength and status would be coveted by many. If not for this, Di Baichen wouldn't have become the prince of Feng Bo country. Although they didn't know much about these things, they vaguely understood some things. In their eyes, Di Baichen was an insurmountable mountain, their role model. Seeing Di Baichen happily accept everyone's praise, even Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but blush for Di Baichen. This guy's face was completely trained. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to hide it. He Mu hasn't woken up yet. Baisher and the others should be with He Mu. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was light and sweet. Her gaze turned to Di Baichen, asking for Di Baichen's opinion. Ever since He Mu came, the three beasts had stuck to him. Thinking about it, He Mu would be taking care of them for the next few days. After all, He Mu was the easiest to bully. Since He Mu hasn't woken up yet, let him continue to sleep. He usually doesn't drink alcohol, but he suddenly drank too much yesterday. I'm afraid the aftereffects won't be small. Di Baichen smiled. He Mu had been by his side since a long time ago. They practically grew up together. Although he usually cultivated hard, he still had time to relax. However, He Mu didn't. He Mu always strictly protected him in the dark. Sometimes he would pull He Mu to relax, but He Mu stubbornly persisted. He didn't think that yesterday, when He Mu was taking care of the three beasts, Dongfang Yu would directly pull He Mu over and force him to drink without saying anything. However, this was also good. He Mu could also relax, but the aftereffects weren't very good. After confirming from Di Baichen that He Mu had never drunk alcohol, Dongfang Yu's expression couldn't help but change. He never thought that He Mu had never drunk before, so when He Mu said that he didn't drink before, he didn't believe him at all. He directly forced He Mu to drink a lot. She didn't expect He Mu to be telling the truth. She felt a little embarrassed. He Mu has never drunk alcohol before. He is really strict. Bai Junyu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. They all knew He Mu's identity, so they could naturally guess the reason why He Mu didn't drink. From this, one could see how serious and responsible He Mu was. Let's go see the principal first. I believe the principal already knows about our return. Gong Shaoqing's cold face was filled with wisdom. Based on his understanding of the principal was probably already waiting for them to pay their respects. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and nodded. Okay, let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately walked out of the special enrollment dormitory and slowly walked in the direction of the principal's office. Along the way, they passed by the martial arts arena where the cultivators were practicing. Suddenly, all eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After yesterday's understanding, the students of the Azure Water School almost all knew about the deeds of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Therefore, everyone's eyes were now looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, full of yearning. Chapter 1651. The principal's office was not far from the special enrollment dormitory. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the principal's office after a short walk. Knock knock. Gong Shaoqing stepped forward and knocked on the door. Among all of them, Gong Shaoqing was the most familiar with the principal. Gotcha. The door was directly opened. Ren Tianxiong personally opened the door. After seeing Gong Shaoqing and the others, his kind and dignified face suddenly showed a happy smile. Welcome back, Principal. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others respectfully bowed. Their faces were full of smiles. At this moment, Ren Tianxiong did not dare to accept Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' salute. This was because after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back from the assessment, their status was different from before. We have been waiting for you for a long time. Come in quickly. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked into the room, they found that the vice principal, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huaiyan, and Fu Hongbao were all in the room. Looking at this appearance, it was obvious that they were waiting for them. Seeing this scene, the smiles on everyone's faces deepened a little. After seeing Di Baichen, Ren Tianxiong and the others all saluted Di Baichen and said, "Greetings to the young sect master." Although they were the principals and teachers of the Azure Water School, standing in front of the young sect master of the Tiangang sect, they were simply not enough. The young sect master had a noble status. Anyone who saw him had to salute. "Since I came to the Azure Water School, I am a student of the Azure Water School. You are my principals and teachers. How can you salute me?" Di Baichen said aloud. With his status, except for the various sect masters and aristocratic family heads, everyone who saw him had to salute. But he was once a student of the Azure Water School. Naturally, he would not accept the salutes of Ren Tianxiong and the others. "Yes, Baichen is right," Bailey Hongzhuang said. Seeing Di Baichen's gentle expression, Ren Tianxiong and the others exchanged glances before returning to their original attitudes. From the beginning to the end, Di Baichen didn't want to be a student of the Azure Water School. Di Baichen came to the Azure Water School for Bailey Hongzhuang. They were well aware of this. They didn't dare to say that Di Baichen was a student of their school. The dignified Tiangang sect's young lord was a student of their school? Even if they spread the news, no one would believe them. They would only be laughed at. They also didn't expect that Di Baichen would come back with Bailey Hongzhuang. It seemed that Di Baichen really liked Bailey Hongzhuang. "We are so happy to see you all back safely." Huan Chuyo's face was filled with a kind smile. When Gong Shaoqing and the others left, they were very worried. They heard from Cui Haoyan that they went to participate in the exam. As the vice principal of the Azure Water School, he had seen a lot of things. He naturally knew the risks of participating in the exam. What's more, Qingyue had been asking him about this. Now that he saw everyone come back safely, he was finally relieved. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's faces were also full of joy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were students they were proud of. Now that they saw them come back safely as mentors, they also felt very proud. "Sit," Lu Huaiyan quickly said. Chapter 1652. "After not seeing you for 2 years, you guys have matured a lot." Lu Huaiyan sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When he first recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were still very immature. After 2 years of the assessment competition, that immaturity had gradually faded. Just by looking at their changes, Lu Huaiyan could understand how much they had experienced during the assessment competition. In comparison, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had also worked very hard during these 2 years. However, their changes were not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Dongfang Yu chuckled. Participating in the assessment competition, it is very difficult to not mature. People would always grow, especially when they were in a difficult situation. The assessment competition was a difficult situation for them. After 2 whole years, they went from being careful at every step to being feared by others. Not only did their bodies grow stronger, their hearts also grew stronger. Hearing Dongfang Yu's words, Huan Chuyu and the others smiled and nodded. Although they had not participated in the assessment competition, they had a certain understanding and knew that Dongfang Yu was telling the truth. Fu Hongba sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, his eyes revealing a bit of surprise. "I see that your strength has increased a lot." Thinking back, he could see through Gong Shaoqing and the others' strength with a single glance. But now, he could not see it clearly. He could only feel that their auras were much stronger. The elemental energy in the assessment competition is very dense, comparable to twice the outside world. Therefore, we have improved a lot in these 2 years. Gong Shaoqing said with a smile. Cultivating in the pocket world for 2 years was equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for 4 years. Naturally, their improvement was greater than ordinary cultivators. What's more, the various things they had experienced had also increased their strength, so their improvement was greater. When Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng heard this, their eyes were filled with envy. When they first went to Tiangang sect, they found that the yuan power in Tiangang sect was extremely rich and felt that it was a suitable place for cultivation. They did not expect the elemental energy in the pocket world to be so dense. No wonder Gong Xiaoqing and the others' strength increased so quickly. Thinking back, Cui Haoyan and Gong Xiaoqing's strength was not too different. Sometimes they could even compete. However, now Cui Haoyan already knew the gap between them just by feeling Gong Xiaoqing's aura. In 2 years, he had been left far behind by Gong Xiaoqing. He could not catch up at all. Not only Cui Haoyan, but Zhang Yunfeng also felt it very obvious. At that time, Xia Jiqing's cultivation was not as strong as hers, but now Xia Jiqing's strength was much stronger than hers, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back, she did not ask them how their cultivation had improved, because she did not want to take too big of a shock. Before, Lu Qinyue had already told her that regardless of whether a cultivator could achieve results in the assessment competition, as long as they could come back alive from there would be a great improvement. Obviously, everyone's improvement. Joining. Ren Tianxiong thought for a moment and hesitated for a moment before he asked the question he wanted to ask. Chapter 1653. Although he knew that the possibility was small, Ren Tianxiong still decided to ask. At the very least, he could confirm a conclusion. We have all joined Tiangang's sect, Gong Xiaoqing replied respectfully. Ren Tianxiong and the rest were stunned for a moment and looked at Gong Xiaoqing and the rest in surprise. Logically speaking, it was extremely difficult to join a sect. In fact, they didn't have much hope at all. However, Gong Xiaoqing's extremely natural answer shocked them. Joined Tiangang's sect? And all of them joined? How was that possible? Ren Tianxiong and the rest felt that it was impossible, but Gong Xiaoqing did not seem to have any reason to lie. As a result, they really couldn't understand what was going on. They did not participate in the assessment competition, but they knew that only cultivators in the top 100 could join the top 10 sections. How many dynasties were there in the Shengxian continent? The number of cultivators was even more shocking. Only the geniuses among geniuses could become one of the top 100. Yet, Gong Xiaoqing said that all of them had joined? Ren Tianxiong and the rest could not help but look at Di Beichen. Perhaps it was because Di Beichen was the young sect master of Tiangang sect that Gong Xiaoqing and the rest could become a member of Tiangang sect. Even so, it was still something to be happy about. As long as they became a member of the sect, their future path would be smoother and further than other cultivators. Noticing Ren Tianxiong and the rest's gaze, Gong Xiaoqing immediately knew what they were thinking. He smiled and said, "This has nothing to do with me. They relied on their own strength to reach this step." As Di Beichen's voice fell, the eyes of Ren Tianxiong and the others were filled with deep shock. Di Beichen's words could not be false. However, Tiangang sect was one of the top 10 sections. Other than cultivators in the top 100, it was impossible for others to join. Did this mean that Gong Xiaoqing and the rest were in the top 100? Ren Tianxiong, Huan Chuyu, and the others looked at each other in disbelief. The possibility was too small. You guys are in the top 100? Huan Chuyu couldn't help but ask. At such a time, even he was feeling somewhat nervous. If Gong Xiaoqing and the rest really made it to the top 100 list, it would be too amazing. Yeah, we're all in the top 100. Dongfang Yu's handsome and elegant face was filled with a happy smile. His pair of peach blossom eyes were overflowing with happiness. He didn't find it strange that the principal and vice principal were so surprised. In fact, it wasn't just the principal who found it strange. Sometimes, when he thought about it, even he himself found it unbelievable. As soon as he said this, the principal's office was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Ren Tianxiong, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huayan, and Fu Hongba looked at Dongfang Yu's group as if they were looking at a freak. This news really shocked them. They had never thought of such a possibility, not even in their dreams. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng were also dumbfounded. They didn't ask about this yesterday because they thought it was almost impossible. As long as Gong Xiaoqing and the others were able to return safely, it was enough to make everyone happy. Bringing up this topic would only make everyone feel uncomfortable. Chapter 1654. Gong Xiaoqing and the others were all on the top 100 list. All of them were on the list. This kind of thing was impossible even in a large empire's team. Gong Xiaoqing and the others had simply created a miracle. "What is your rank?" Huan Chuyu couldn't help but ask. Everyone had made it to the top 100. This result was really a pleasant surprise. When Huan Chuyu asked the question, Ren Tianxiong couldn't help but pick up his teacup. The news just now really gave him a big surprise. He had to suppress his shock. "My rank is the last, I'm 30th. Xia Jiqing took the lead to speak, her face filled with a faint and happy smile. The difference in points between the four of them was not big. In their team, her cultivation was the lowest, so it was normal for her rank to be the last. However, when Xia Jiqing said this, Ren Tianxiong, who was drinking tea, couldn't help but spit out the tea in his mouth. Cough cough. Ren Tianxiong coughed, but he didn't care about the mess on the ground. His eyes were fixed on Xia Jiqing. 30th? And last? Huan Chuyu and the others were also dumbfounded. They stared at Xia Jiqing and the others, their hearts filled with horror. Originally, they only thought that Gong Xiaoqing and the others could be ranked in the 90s, which was already very good. If they could be ranked in the 80s, it would really be a great result. They didn't think that Xia Jiqing would say 30th. This really shocked them and they couldn't believe it was true. 30th? Lu Huayan couldn't help but ask again, wondering if Xia Jiqing had said something wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and confirmed her answer. "Yes. I'm 29th. Bai Junyu followed. I'm 28th. Dongfang Yu smiled. Gong Xiaoqing also followed. I'm 27th. Hearing Gong Xiaoqing and the others' rankings, Huan Chuyu and the others were even more surprised. It was really rare to see their rankings so close. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's hearts were filled with envy. If they had participated in the assessment with Gong Xiaoqing and the others, then they would be proud of them now. The cultivators of Tiangang sect, this identity was enough to make all cultivators envious. From then on, their lives would take two completely different paths. It could be said that the difference between heaven and earth was like that between the clouds and the mud. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng felt bitter in their hearts. If they had given it their all back then, they would have definitely been able to participate in the assessment with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, after they understood the brutality of the great examination competition, they panicked. They were afraid that they would not be able to return after participating in the great examination competition. It was precisely because of that trace of fear that they did not persist in the assessment array. And now they were regretting it. Zhang Yunfeng looked at Xia Jiqing with envy. In fact, she was stronger than Xia Jiqing at that time, but she didn't succeed. All of this was because Xia Jiqing had a fearless heart. From the beginning to the end, Xia Jiqing never thought of retreating, but she was not as fearless as Xia Jiqing. However, no matter how envious they were, it was useless. The assessment competition had ended, and everything had been settled. Chapter 1655. Thinking about it, this gap was already a gap that could not be crossed, and it would be impossible to catch up in the future. Why are your points so close? Fu Hongbo was puzzled. Logically speaking, it was impossible for their points to be so close. Dongfang Yu smiled. Whenever we get points from other cultivators, we split them equally. That's why our rankings are so close. In addition to the points they got, they usually hunted monster beasts together. Although the number of monster beasts they hunted was different, the gap between their points would not be too big. It was because of this that their rankings were so close. Listening to Dongfang Yu's words, Fu Hongbo and the others understood. However, after knowing that Dongfang Yu and the others got points all the way, they were also amazed. They were very clear that in their eyes, the strength of Gong Xiaoqing's group was naturally very good, but in the entire Xingxian continent, It was incomparable. They never thought that Gong Xiaoqing and the others could get such a result, and they felt extremely proud. Saying this, Ren Tianxiong and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing and the others had already said their rankings, only Bailey Hongzhuang had not said anything. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are 26th? Lu Huayan asked aloud. Since Xia Jiqing's ranking was the last, and Gong Xiaoqing and the others' rankings were connected, then Bailey Hongzhuang could only be in front and not behind. Thinking about it, she should be 26th. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Xia Jiqing's voice had already sounded. Boss is not 26th, she is first. Although it was not her own result, Xia Jiqing was also proud of Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a result was enough to move anyone. Quang Dang. The teacup in Ren Tianxiong's hand fell to the ground. His hands were faintly trembling, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. None of the things that had happened before could be compared to this. This was too unbelievable. Not only Ren Tianxiong, but Huan Chuyu and the others were also stunned. First place? That was a result they didn't even dare to think about. The person in front of them was actually the champion of the assessment competition? Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This result was simply amazing. In such an intense environment like the assessment competition, Hong Zhuang was actually able to achieve such result. It was really amazing. You are the champion of the assessment? Ren Tianxiong stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had never thought that one day a student from the Azure Water School would be the champion of the examination. This was the greatest wish of all the principals, but it had never been fulfilled. He never thought that his wish would come true this time, and it was completely beyond his expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes. After getting Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Ren Tianxiong couldn't help but laugh. Haha, good. Sure. Such a result was definitely the best result ever achieved by a student of the Azure Water School. This is too shocking. You are really amazing. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a completely different gaze. Now they could no longer be Bailey Hongzhuang's mentor. They were afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang could already be their mentor. Chapter 1656. Principal, we came back this time to tell you the good news. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Previously, the Kanglan College withdrew from the 3 major colleges and was excluded. Now this situation can be changed. The reason why they came back was that they wanted to change the situation of the Kanglan College. At the beginning, when they participated in the college tournament, they were oppressed by the Qing dynasty. If the college chose to listen to the Qing dynasty, then Bailey Hongzhuang would never come back. However, whether it was the vice principal or the mentor, they stood on their side and always protected the students. Even if they were enemies with the other 2 colleges and the enrollment was not small, the principal never had the slightest dissatisfaction. Just this point alone was enough to make them feel touched. So, they came back. At the beginning, the college was affected because of them, and now they hoped that the college would become brilliant again because of them. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu's faces changed. They were very clear about the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others wanted to help the Kanglan College rebuild its glory. As Bailey Hongzhuang said, as long as the news of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others on the top 100 list was released, it would definitely attract a large number of talented cultivators. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was the first in the top 100 list. What kind of achievement was this? Just this point alone, Lingyin College and Beihai College could no longer suppress them. Because they simply could not suppress them. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba's faces could not help but show a touch of excitement. In the past 2 years, they had been extremely aggrieved when they were recruiting. Before, the situation of the Kanglan College's enrollment was better, but since they withdrew from the 3 major colleges, all kinds of unfavorable news continued to come. Most of the outstanding students were recruited by Lingyin College and Beihai College. As a result, the results of the Kanglan College in the past 2 years were not as good as before. What was even more infuriating was that Lingyin College and Beihai College had not only gone too far, they were even mocking them in the market. Now that they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, it was as if they could see the day they could hold their heads high. How could they not be excited? Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyo's gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Back then, they felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was an extraordinary woman. However, they had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing for the college. In this world, there were many ungrateful cultivators. What's more, when Bailey Hongzhuang encountered that kind of danger in the college tournament, it was all for the sake of the college. It was their duty to protect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had come to help them after achieving such great results, how could they not be moved? At least, there were not many cultivators in the world who could do such a thing. Lingyin College and Beihai College have become more and more excessive in the past 2 years. Especially Lingyin College, they have always suppressed us in the open and in the dark. They are extremely hateful. Cui Haoyan's face was full of anger. In the past 2 years, he had felt it particularly obvious. He had wanted to fight back for a long time, but he had never had a chance. He could only endure it. Chapter 1657. Listening to Cui Haoyan's words, the faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others turned cold. When they first participated in the college tournament, they did not have a good impression of Lingyin College. They did not expect Lingyin College to be so excessive in these 2 years. This time, they wanted to see how arrogant Lingyin College would be. Lingyin College is usually so arrogant. The members of the royal family of the Qing dynasty that they are most proud of have all fallen. This time, I am afraid they will not be able to do anything. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was slightly cold. She was extremely disgusted with Lingyin College and the royal family of the Qing dynasty. Yes, those guys thought they were so great, but in the end, they were just looking for their own deaths. Xia Jiqing sneered. When she thought of Nangong Yu and the others threatening them in the assessment and finally losing their lives, she felt extremely ridiculous. Speaking of which, if they did not seek death, they would not die. Listening to the words of Gong Shaoqing and the others, the eyes of the principal and the mentor also changed a little. Looking at the situation, there was a hidden meaning in their words. Did you meet the cultivators of the Qing dynasty during the assessment? Zhang Yunfeng could not help but ask. She was extremely disgusted with the cultivators of the Qing dynasty. If there was a chance, she would not hesitate to send them all to hell. It was just that she could not do this with her strength, so she could only think about it in her heart. We met them. They took the initiative to find trouble with us. They wanted to threaten us so that they could kill us all. But the final result was completely different from what they thought. They were all killed by us. Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded. Her expression was a little proud. When she thought of the stupid things that Nangong Yu and the others had done before, she felt ridiculous. They had tried to steal a chicken but ended up losing the rice used to lure it. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan once again took a breath of cold air. They did not expect everyone to be so domineering in the assessment, directly killing these enemies. Great! Cui Haoyan's eyes were bright. He felt that he had finally vented his anger and was extremely happy. Presumably, Lingyin College will not feel good after knowing this result. I want to see what results they can use to be arrogant now. When they thought of what Lingyin College had done in the past 2 years, the more proud they were before, the more painful it was now. He was more and more looking forward to the performance of Lingyin College after knowing the results of Hongzhuang. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba also smiled. It's indeed satisfying. In the past, they were often angered by Lingyin College and Beihai College. Since the college tournament, the situation had become more and more serious. The two of them had endured it for a long time. Now that they knew that the proud student of Lingyin College had died in the exam, and at the hands of their students, they felt very happy. After saying this, Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba couldn't help but look at the two principals. Although these were their heartfelt words, it seemed a little inappropriate to say it in front of the principal. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyo's gazes landed on Lu Huaiyan and Huan Chuyu. Just when Lu Huaiyan and Huan Chuyu were thinking about what to say, Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyo's words shocked everyone. Well done! Ren Tianxiong slapped the table. Chapter 1658. Ren Tianxiong's face was full of joy. Jian Qingqiu has been so arrogant all these years. Now we can finally hold our heads up high. When everyone saw Ren Tianxiong so happy, they were stunned for a moment, and then they all laughed. It seemed that the principal's thoughts were the same as theirs. In fact, Ren Tianxiong's anger towards the two colleges was deeper than Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, because they had been holding a grudge for a long time. As early as when Jian Qingqiu held the inter-academy competition, Jian Qingqiu had coerced him time and time again, which made him extremely unhappy. After that, Jian Qingqiu actually did something so excessive in the last inter-academy competition. It was simply unforgivable. From the beginning to the end, he had agreed with Huan Chuyo's decision to withdraw from the three colleges. Instead of being associated with Lingyin College and Beihai College, which only cared about fame and fortune, it was better to withdraw and stick to their own way. For him, fame and fortune were not the most important. Completing the original intention of the principal to establish the college was the most important. Over the years, he had been holding back his anger for a long time, but he had been unable to defeat Lingyin College, so he could only endure it. Now, his students had defeated the students that Jian Qingqiu was proud of. He had won this round. The atmosphere in the principal's office became extremely lively. After confirming what to do next, the principal and the tutor asked everyone about their experiences in the assessment tournament. At noon, Ren Tianxiong insisted on inviting everyone to eat together. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not refuse, so they went together. When the students of Kanglin College saw that the principal and the vice principal had invited the special enrollment students to eat, their expressions could not help but change a little. The principal actually invited Gong Senpai and the others to eat. This is too surprising. I have been in the college for so long, but I have never seen the principal and the students eat together. I don't know what kind of great achievements Gong Senpai and the others have to make the two principals and the tutor have lunch with them. The students were surprised. For them, the tutor was relatively easy to get close to, but the principal was difficult to see. The vice principal was almost always in the alchemist guild. As long as there were no special things, they would not see the vice principal at all. As for the whereabouts of the principal, they were even more elusive. Apart from seeing the principal when they first arrived, they had almost never seen him. They could not even talk, let alone eat together. In the afternoon, a piece of news quickly swept the entire college and even Kanglin City. The entire Kanglin City was in a sensation, and everyone was talking about the news. Have you heard? The special enrollment students who participated in the assessment tournament were actually in the top 100. I have heard of it. Who doesn't know this news? They are already disciples of Tiangang Zong. Oh my God, this is really amazing. Someone from our academy actually became a disciple of Tiangang sect, and there are as many as 5 of them. Now I have the capital to brag when I go back. I saw the disciples of Tiangang sect with my own eyes. The group of students who did not understand why the principal and tutors treated the cultivators of the special admissions class differently now completely understood. With such an impressive identity, it was only right for the principal to treat them this way. Chapter 1659. Lingyin College. Jian Qingqiu's face was ugly to the extreme. Since the 2-year period was up, he had been waiting for Nangong Yuer and the others to come back. He believed that with the existence of Wei Junjie, ordinary cultivators would not be his opponent at all. As everyone knew, the strength of a poison master was far beyond that of an ordinary cultivator. All kinds of powerful poisons were enough to make it impossible for cultivators to guard against them. Even though the cultivators who participated in the assessment were all genius cultivators of various dynasties, there were very few poison masters. Even in a dynasty, it was rare to meet a poison master. He believed that with Wei Junjie in the team, the Qing Shao dynasty would be able to achieve excellent results this time. Once Nangong Yu and the others achieved good results, as long as they could come back alive, then their Lingyin College would have the capital to promote. The cultivators who had participated in the assessment competition, he believed that many young cultivators would come because of their reputation. At that time, the reputation of Lingyin College would become more and more famous. However, he had waited for so long, but there was no news of Nangong Yu and the others coming back. As time passed, the worry in his heart became more and more intense. The assessment competition is clearly over, but they haven't come back yet. Did something happen? Jian Qingqiu couldn't understand. It was reasonable to say that with such a lineup, it was impossible to fail. In the history of the Qing Shao dynasty, there had been cases of complete annihilation, but sometimes they could come back safely. According to the frequency of this kind of thing happening in the past, it was half and half, but this time the camp was obviously stronger than before, so there should be no problem. Just as Jian Qingqiu was waiting, Lin Yinghao quickly walked in from the outside, his face full of anxiety. "Principal, things are not good." Listening to Lin Yinghao's words, Jian Qingqiu couldn't help but frown. His mood was already very bad, and now Lin Yinghao had come to touch his bad luck. His mood was even worse. What happened? Jian Qingqiu looked at Lin Yinghao impatiently. The most important thing for him now was the results of the assessment competition. Other than that, nothing else was important. The news of the assessment competition has come. Lin Yinghao didn't care about Jian Qingqiu's impatience. This was very important news. Jian Qingqiu immediately put away his impatience and his face became serious. Bad news about the assessment? Lin Yinghao's expression was ugly. He nodded and said, "The cultivators from the Green Firmament dynasty were completely annihilated." Jian Qingqiu's expression changed. He grabbed Lin Yinghao's clothes and said, "What did you say?" "The entire army has been wiped out. This is the news from the royal family. Right now, the entire royal family is at its lowest point." Lin Yinghao didn't care about Jian Qingqiu's actions. In fact, when he first heard the news, he also found it unbelievable. Originally, they all believed that Wei Junjie and the others would be able to achieve good results this time. They were just waiting for them to return home with glory and give them a big welcome. But who would have thought that the final result would be like this? Seeing that Lin Yinghao was so certain, Jian Qingqiu's face turned pale. His hands gradually let go of Lin Yinghao, and his expression was somewhat empty. The entire army was wiped out. They were completely annihilated. As a result, his wishful thinking had come to naught. Chapter 1660. With the addition of Wei Junjie, how could Nangong Yu and the others be completely wiped out? Jian Qingqiu was also a person who had seen the world. After a short period of frustration, he quickly recovered and asked Lin Yinghao for the specific details. Lin Yinghao shook his head and said, "I don't know, no one knows which dynasty they fell in the hands of." Boom! Jian Qingqiu took 2 steps back and fell directly on the stool. This result was simply too hard to accept. They were so confident in the assessment competition, but they did not expect their luck to be so bad. "Principal, there is another piece of bad news." Lin Yinghao looked at Jian Qingqiu hesitantly. This news was also something he did not want to see. After Jian Qingqiu heard another piece of bad news, he could not help but have a look of doubt in his eyes. He said, "Say it." At this time, Jian Qingqiu did not care anymore. After all, the worst situation had already happened. What could be worse? However, when Lin Yinghao said this, Jian Qingqiu found that this was even worse news. The cultivators of the Kanglan College participated in the assessment competition and were on the list of the top 100. Now they are disciples of the Tiangang sect. Lin Yinghao looked at Jian Qingqiu worriedly. This result was really unexpected. Sure enough, Jian Qingqiu's face couldn't be any darker. Since the Kanglan College resolutely withdrew from the 3 major colleges, they had been suppressing the Kanglan College. After cooperating with the royal family of the Qing dynasty, their reputation was much better than the Kanglan College. Therefore, it was not difficult for them to suppress the Kanglan College. They did not expect the students of the Kanglan College to achieve such good result. It seemed that the Kanglan College was going to make a comeback this time. Who is on the list of the top 100? Jian Qingqiu's eyes were as sharp as a knife, shooting straight at Lin Yinghao. The list of the top 100 was not something that ordinary people could get on. Even in the Lingyin College, there had not been a cultivator who had climbed to the top 100. The Kanglan College had not recruited many students over the years. How could such a cultivator appear? Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yinghao replied. Bailey Hongzhuang? Jian Qingqiu gritted his teeth as he said this name. It was precisely because of the existence of Bailey Hongzhuang that the plan for the college tournament went wrong. It actually allowed the Kanglan College to be in the limelight. However, after learning about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, Jian Qingqiu understood that he could not afford to offend her. Tiangang sect's young master's wife. With such a status, it would be very easy to kill him. Bailey Hongzhuang's identity is unusual. It's not strange that she's in the top 100. This can only be attributed to Ren Tianxiong's good luck. Jian Qingqiu's eyes flashed with a sinister and cold light. He had fought with Ren Tianxiong for so many years. It was not easy for him to defeat Ren Tianxiong. He did not expect the situation to turn around now. God knows how Ren Tianxiong managed to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang into the school. Bailey Hongzhuang was also strange. As the wife of the young master of the Tiangang sect, she actually went to the Kanglan College to cultivate. Wasn't this looking for trouble? Principal, but Bailey Hongzhuang is not the only one in the top 100. Chapter 1661. Hearing Lin Yinghao's words, Jian Qingqiu's face suddenly changed. He stood up again and asked, "How is it possible? Who else is there?" It was already a great thing for the Kanglan College to have Bailey Hongzhuang on the list. How could there be a second person? Lin Yinghao said with a bitter face, "Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing are all on the list." As soon as these words came out, Jian Qingqiu couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Lin Yinghao in surprise, wondering if he had heard wrong. "You said Dongfang Yu and the others are on the list? How is this possible?" Jian Qingqiu was speechless. Coming back alive and being on the list are two completely different concepts. Jian Qingqiu didn't believe it from the bottom of his heart. This was simply impossible. It was never easy to get on the list. Even in the history of the Qing Shao dynasty, there was only one cultivator who climbed the list. How could the Kanglan College suddenly have so many cultivators climb the list together? This was simply a fantasy. "Principal, this is true." Lin Yinghao's face was full of seriousness. He immediately handed a letter to Jian Qingqiu and said, "Look at this and you will know." When he first heard the news, he also felt that something must have gone wrong. This kind of thing was simply impossible. However, the facts made him have to admit that all this was true. Even if they didn't want to believe it, there was no way. Jian Qingqiu took the letter from Lin Yinghao's hand and opened it. He saw that the list of the top 100 in the assessment competition was written on the letter. Jian Qingqiu looked up from the 100th place. He couldn't find the names of Xia Jiqing and the others. He couldn't help but frown. There was clearly no one. However, when Jian Qingqiu's eyes fell on the 30th place, his face suddenly became ugly. 30th place Xia Jiqing. 29th place Bai Junyu. 28th place Dongfang Yu. 27th place Gong Shaoqing. How is this possible? Jian Qingqiu's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. He looked left and right and felt that all this was fake. However, he knew very well that no one would fake this kind of thing and there was no need to fake it. Dongfang Yu was actually ranked 28th in the exam. How is that possible with his strength? Jian Qingqiu had a deep impression of Dongfang Yu. At that time, Nangong Xiujie humiliated Dongfang Yu in every possible way, but Dongfang Yu didn't have the slightest power to fight back. However, for someone like Dongfang Yu to be able to achieve such a result in the top 100 was simply a fantasy. But what was written in black and white was clearly true. What was going on? We don't know why this happened either. The royal family confirmed it several times and finally confirmed that it was true, Lin Yinghao said. Jian Qingqiu's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. If the cultivators of Kanglan College had achieved such impressive results, then how could they compare with Kanglan College? Not to mention that all the previous suppression was useless. Now that the Kanglan College was elated, the unlucky ones would be them. Thinking of this, Jian Qingqiu could not accept it at all.